Well, we will conclude with a short talk about insulin resistance in subjects who don't use muscles for or are subjected to a condition of microgravity. Okay, background is, I think, common sense. The less we use our body, the less glucose we need, and low physical activity triggers also kind of the insulin resistance. We try to compare to see how much of this resistance is developed in association to changes in a family of proteases and of their inhibitors. Because recently the number of substrates that have been found for these proteins is increasingly, and they are not just acting as we thought outside of the cells, but also inside, and they might have also an activity on some metabolic activities. Of course, we have to see in which direction. So the study design is based on 10 subjects staying in bed for a bed rest, experimental bed rest, for 10 days, and in these subjects, we measured circulating MMPs and their inhibitors, and we also had muscle biopsies, which have been examined for immunofluorescence and in situ zymography. It is normal, it was expected to develop a kind of insulin resistance, and so we measured also glucose, insulin, and determined the HOMA index, which is an index to assess how much insulin is needed to have to maintain the normal glycemia. The most interesting, the data that I want to show you is that we started with the evaluation at the beginning. How is physiologically regulated and how is associated to the metalloproteases. What we see is that normal glycemia is associated with, surprisingly, muscular cytoplasmic MMP13 and also pericellular. But what is interesting is that cytoplasmic collagenase activity is correlated with glycemia, and at a lesser extent also cytoplasmic TIMP2. But what is also of interest is that insulin level, so the baseline level, is correlated, and HOMA index is correlated with MMP8 and MMP9. Now, no, sorry. I won't go on the correlations, but it's just this is something that is currently under investigation. The other point is that how to explain circulating MMP8 and 9 compared to the insulin level. The only thing that is that works together with this is the granulation of neutrophils in the tertiary granules of neutrophils. And to assess this kind of relation, we also checked for another protein that is released by the tertiary granules, which is circulating heparinase, which are kind of correlated, but not exactly as these two proteases. So we are looking for this to further investigate on this. This is how the insulin resistance develops over time. You see glycemia, insulin, and HOMA index. During the 10 days, they tend to decrease. There is no we are borderline with statistical significance, but it's a matter of just of the size. We see that insulin is kind of increasing, and OMA index 2. But if you look at how data are spread, you see that it's normal to have, I mean, the data are well described in short, are in a short range. But we look at 10 days, the range increases and the data are more scattered. And on the other side, these are just the circulating MMPs. And I think okay. What we have seen is, what is the effect of this kind of bed rest? We measured the ratio of the final with the initial level. So it means that the ratio of, I mean, the positive values are, here you see. Positive values means that there is an increase in the insulin resistance. You see, OMA index and insulin are increased, so we are increasing the by around 50% the insulin release, and what we have seen is that cytoplasm TIMP1, so an inhibitor matrix metalloproteases, which is inside of the muscle, somehow divides the fate of the development of insulin resistance, meaning that there are 4 subjects that had an increase in TIMP1, and TIMP1 was, and such an increase was associated with the maintenance of the insulin resistance. So no development of insulin resistance. And the opposite happened for the other 6 subjects who had somehow a wider or smaller decrease on TIMP1. So with and this is something that was not might have an interest in knowing in the development of diabetes. Also, this is we had an area under the curve of 1 basically, so it was perfectly clear, perfectly separated in this sample. And conclusions are that at baseline, the insulin amount and effect on glucose are related to MMP13. And about MMP13, I had to say that we have an evidence of the immunofluorescence, but also we have a gelatin, collagen zymography, which is a zymography in situ, which is an independent demonstration of this activity. And during bed rest is TIMP1, which is something we have to, we're currently investigating. And one of the possibilities is to match all these, the proteases with this, with other proteins. We are working on we're checking on the bioplex, which is a source of protein-protein interaction. And we can see that the yellow genes are those that have been associated with other, with insulin resistance, or have some data that are connected to. And I think this is it.